How are you? This is We the People, voices of We the People. You know, We the People is the opening words of the preamble of the Constitution of the United States. That means we, the people, are in charge of our government. So our challenge is to try to figure out how we, the people, become more engaged. And to that end, I have the most gracious and wonderful guest to talk about her journey as we the people, captivating and doing so many things like being on TikTok and and also being a recipient of the Order of the Longleaf Pine. Now, it sounds British to me, but it's not. I was introducing Brenda, who is an amazing and apparently a very famous guest on TikTok. Yay! Thank
Yeah.
you. She's had an amazing journey, and she's going to tell us about herself through that amazing journey. Like I said, she is a recipient of the Order of the Longleaf Pine, and like I said, I didn't know we had one of those in North Carolina because it sounds very British to me. But anyway, in this podcast, I am the host, and she will be doing the talking. Once in a while, I might add a question or something or make a comment, but it's her journey. It's Brenda's journey. And it's an amazing, amazing place, her journey. So, without any more conversation from me, we turn the mic over to Brenda. And maybe she can start with where she grew up, but she can start anywhere. Brenda, thank you so much for being on our podcast, and we are looking forward to a great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for the honor to be here and the privilege to share. My humble beginnings were on a farm in Johnston County. I'm from a small community called Kenly, North Carolina, and we're called Friendly Kenly because we are friends with everyone. We like to think that we are on the equal. We like to be equal. We like to treat each other with respect. We care for each other, and we're neighborly. And that's what I grew up. I grew up with three sisters and parents and grandparents and cousins and aunts and uncles, and we just enjoyed we enjoyed life. We enjoyed the love of each other. We didn't have a lot of finances, but sometimes money is cruel and can cause a lot of problems. It's not the
Mhm.
answer for everything. But what
You're
we
right.
had was plenty of love to go around. And we had plenty of food because we grew our vegetables. And we killed hogs in the wintertime. We had plenty of meat. But we worked hard, y'all. And I like to always say the dirt is still under my fingernails. The soil of North Carolina will never leave me. Because if you live on a farm and your mother says, go out and get some potatoes for lunch, you don't go to the store. You go to the vegetable garden, y'all, and you dig in that dirt and you find those potatoes. Sometimes they're small and sometimes they're large, but they make a delicious meal. And those are the memories. And then we grew up in North Carolina. A lot of counties had tobacco in those days, and we had to put in the summertime. There was no. We had a lot of fun. We really did, but we worked hard. We were up very early before the sun rose because we had to put in what we called tobacco, and we had to go to the barn. And we were at the barn. Putting in tobacco means handing that tobacco in sunshine and in rain. You had to work until the end of the day. You had your lunch hour and you had your breaks. And the men typically would go out in the field and bring the tobacco to the barn, right? So that was the daytime. We also had cotton, and I helped pick cotton. I know what it feels like for my fingers to bleed. If you've ever done it, you're picking that cotton out of that bowl, and that bowl is hard. And you got that little bag on your shoulder, y'all. And you got to go to the end of that row and start the other row in the hot sun, beating on your back. But I'm going to tell you what was so proud is to bring that bag of cotton and to say, I did this. That's validation, y'all. And you might have got a dime for your work, a dime. But that dime meant something, that you earned it yourself, that you gave all you had for the family. So that was my beginning.
Okay, I'm sorry. I bet that you learned a lot of lessons going forward. Like, where was the next point in your journey once you left the farm? And by the way, I know what you're talking about. We lived on a farm, and the summers, my friends would go and do stuff. We did stuff in the ground. We planted, and then we harvested, and then we put it in the freezer or we canned it. Our summers were packed with making sure that we had what we needed to eat in the winter.
Correct.
So I understand exactly what you're talking about. So what was the next place on your journey? This next step?
Well, the next step was graduation from high school, and I decided that college was I couldn't afford it. My parents couldn't. I can still hear my mother. I said, Mother, I would love to go. And she said, I would love to have the resources to give you, but I don't. So it was four daughters. So I went to work at 19 years old, out of high school. And I went to work, had opportunities in Raleigh, North Carolina. But what we did, and what this generation, maybe they still do it, but we were old school. We no longer said to our parents, you need to buy me a car. You need to provide me something. We were providing them. We didn't have much, but collectively, all of my sisters, if my father needed something, he loved a barbecue on Sunday after church, we bought him a grill. That meant a lot to him. We weren't asking for them to do more for us. They had done all they could.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My mother needed some things, and we provided as best we could for her. She wanted some gas logs, and she got them so that she could stay warm in the winter. I'm digressing a little bit so that you understand what you learned when you grow up on a farm and you go into a building with air conditioning and you do your office work and you're talking to people who are saying, oh, I'm so tired. I can't stand this job. And I'm thinking, really? You're not in the sun? You're not sweating and don't even know if you're going to get a meal? And you're not happy with your life? I was happy to have the air conditioning and to have the job. And I started as the receptionist for the Secretary of State of North Carolina, Thad Eure. What a moment. I had an interview with him, and his chief of staff, Clyde Smith, came, and both of them would ask me questions. And I said to myself, the honor was the interview. I had no idea I would be given a job, a position. Just the honor to interview was what I had hoped for, dreamed for. And then they said, you've got the job. So I began as the receptionist for the Secretary of State in the state capitol. And then the young lady that was his secretary got engaged to go out of town and be married. Her husband to be he was using the GI Bill. A lot of people don't remember that, but we had a GI Bill, and he served in Vietnam. So when she got married, there was a vacancy, and Mr. Eure said, Brenda, I have watched you. I've been watching you do your job. I'm promoting you to be my private secretary, which was an honor too. And I did that job. And then as I learned more and had more responsibilities, he began to add. I had his schedule. I did personal schedule for him. He was on a 5-minute schedule. He was very, very busy. And then I was registering the lobbyist. We didn't have computers. We had pen and paper and a typewriter
Mhm,
and a
mhm,
telephone.
mhm.
And I registered the 600 lobbyists. So I got to
Wow.
know a lot about the legislature. And then Mr. Eure said, Brenda, I want you to assign the seats to the legislators. And that was under our purview. And if any legislator is upset or mad, they'll come to you, not to me. So I, I was, and I do tell our former governor, Roy Cooper, who's now running for the U.S. Senate, and we're going to get him there. I remind him when he was in the Senate, he wanted a seat. And I said, I will hopefully be able to put you in that seat. Under the law, if that seat is occupied by the returning person that won, if they want their seat, they can have their seat. If they don't win and don't come back and it's vacant, then I can put you there. So I was able to put Roy Cooper in the seat in the Senate. And I have reminded him I made him who he is. He became Attorney General, he became governor, and now a candidate for U.S. Senate. And we have that bond. Thank you.
How long did you serve in that as the executive assistant, I believe it was? How long did you serve in that position?
The um the, the position of executive assistant is quite extraordinary. I worked with the Secretary of State for 18 years, 18 and a half. I always I always add my 6 months because if you work as we work, you've earned it. 18 and a half years. When I was working there, it occurred to me that I had to find the courage to go in and talk to Mr. Eure about making me his executive assistant because I was doing those jobs that, in my mind, required an executive assistant. That's what one was doing, right? So I met with Mr. Eure and I said, Mr. Eure, I want you to consider making me your executive assistant. And he was an educator in his own right. He said, Brenda, let me explain to you, you're not a man. Only a man can be an executive assistant to the governor of North Carolina. But let me think about this now, and we'll talk later. Months went by. He called me in the office. He said, Brenda, I'm going to do it. I said, what you going to do? Because I'd forgotten about the request. But he said, I'm going to make you my executive assistant. And I looked at him and I said, Mr. Eure, you just made history. I was the only executive assistant in his 50-year tenure. And I'm certainly honored to that. So that's how I became the executive assistant to the Secretary of State of North Carolina. And that opened doors for other women because other council of state and those days were men only. Not today, we're in 2026 now. But in those times, it was only men at the table for the council of state, y'all. But
Wow.
once Mr. Eure did it, they tapped their private secretary up to be an executive assistant. And I will add a personal caveat. The North Carolina Museum of History chose 100 women that made a difference in women's lives. And I was selected to do that. I was selected to be one of the 100 who chipped the glass a little bit because of your children and your grandchildren, that women have opportunity that they deserve.
I'm just going to ask you about that because that seems like such a phenomenal recognition. And so I kind of wonder, how did you feel when you found out that you were getting this great award?
It was extraordinary because it never happened, and it was a dream. In fact, I had one of the lobbyists in North Carolina come to me once everybody found out and said, we're going to honor you with a lunch. I said, me? He said, yes, we want to honor you, Brenda. And so we had a lunch and I invited my family and friends. It wasn't about me. Let me clear that. Let me go back to what I said. I walked in that office knowing I could lose my job just because I asked to be considered an executive assistant. I walked in there knowing I wouldn't have a job, knowing that I probably wouldn't be able to pay my rent, knowing I may not be able to pay for my car, for my food, for my medicine. But I had to do it because somebody has to do it. I remember President Obama says, if not I,
What
who?
gave you the strength to do that?
I beg your pardon?
About this particular in your life. And what was amazing to me is that you had, one, the courage, and two, the strength to try to make a difference for yourself. And then to be able to translate that to other women. That's phenomenal. What gave
I,
you that kind of strength and courage?
I think I have to say that my mother and my father and my family had strength when they didn't know where they were. They had the same struggles we all have. How are we going to put food on the table? How are we going to make this to happen? And they would step out and have courage to do it. So I think I stand on their shoulders. I had a very, very supportive husband of 40 years, Larry Pollard, and he encouraged me to, if you want to ask, I'm all behind you, Brenda. You can do it, Brenda. So you have to have not just yourself, you have to have a team that supports you in these efforts. And that's what I had.
One of our podcast guests back last week was talking about the connections that we all need to make, not just for ourselves, but to help others make connections and use the resources and use the connections in order to make a difference in our lives. And that sounds like what you did, which is really, really amazing when you think
Thank
about
you.
it. Well,
Well,
I wanted to talk about a little bit about, I know that you had a bump in the road
yeah,
and totally unexpected.
yes.
So could you talk about what it was and how you overcame it? Because it was a struggle that I think many of us to the other side,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you've done. And that itself is a phenomenal thing to do. So talk about your bump in the road in your journey.
In my journey on December 10 of 2024, I had gone to the doctor. I was having a lot of blood, a lot of blood, losing a lot of blood, and my clothes were covered in blood. I couldn't eat, um, couldn't even look at food. I had fever. I didn't know what was going. I didn't know how sick I was. I didn't know. Sometimes that's a good thing. My primary doctor said, Brenda, you're over my pay grade. I don't know what to tell you. We got to get you to a specialist. And that was a gastrologist. She immediately ran a blood panel. I'm driving home from Raleigh to Durham, and the doctor called me herself on my cell phone. And I hope I never hear that call again. She said, Brenda, I'm calling you. We got your blood panel. You're not going home. They're waiting for you in the emergency room at Duke Regional Hospital. You're going to go in front of 50 people in the waiting room. And they're so sick. She said, well, we're waiting for you because your potassium level is 2.4 and you are going to go down with your heart and it will palpitate. And that's a bigger issue that we're going to be dealing with if we don't get you in there right now. So we're waiting for you. So I drove home and walked in the house to my husband, and he was on the telephone with a friend, and he put the phone down. He looked at me. He knew I had come from the doctor. He had been wanting to go with me to the doctor. I said, no, I just need to do this by myself. I said, Larry, I've got to go to the hospital. He said, I'm in the car. Let's go. So he got me there. Long story short, they saved my life. But I will share with you, God will put all of us on his detour. God is control. We're not in control of our breath. We're not in control of tomorrow. God woke us up today for his purpose. So God saved my life so that I can continue to serve God. And that's first in my life, and then me, and then my husband and others. But that's what makes me happy, is to serve, help other people, have empathy. We're all in it together, no matter what our backgrounds, no matter what we've done. But that was something that was out. I had no idea. And my body was fighting my
So how
body.
did you overcome it?
I was able to stay in the hospital for 6 days at Christmas. That was Christmas for
Wow.
me in 24. And the doctors we had to do a lot of surgeries, and they came in my room, and the doctors came in. They said, Brenda, we know your diagnosis. You have Crohn's disease. And Crohn's disease is your colon is on fire. So you immediately get on steroids, which you cannot stay on for long, but the steroids will calm the colon down. And I was able to begin to eat, but I was on a restricted diet, and I could not have fiber because fiber is not a friend at that point. So I watched my diet with discipline, and then we charted a pathway. I have a team of specialists in Crohn's disease at Duke, and I go every month to the IBD clinic. That's the inflammatory bowel disease clinic. My disease is chronic. It will never be cured. And let me address that, because I like to fix things and I don't like to hear forever. I want to fix it, but you can't. And some things in your life, you just cannot fix it. And once you find that peace, and I still struggle with it, but that tells you who's in control. And that tells you you're here for a larger purpose than yourself. Amen.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Which
And
actually gets us to your current work that you're doing, which is, this is it's like the creative part of you is now blossoming.
mhm,
You're working with seniors.
uh-huh.
You are the director of seniors for North Carolina. How did that come about, given what you had been experiencing all this time?
I was precinct chair for 10 years, precinct 9 in Durham, one precinct, elected and honored. And I wanted to continue, and I ran, but I was defeated by another wonderful young lady. She's doing an excellent job. In fact, I had mentored her, and she said, Brenda, you mentored me. And I said, you'll do a great job. But you see, sometimes God wants to close the door so he can take you other places for himself.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
by that door closing, I had the county leadership call me. They said, Brenda, we need a chapter of senior Democrats, and we want you to organize it. I said, me? I, I've just gotten out of the hospital. I'm trying to get better and stronger. But let me think about that. And I did. And I like woke up at 3 a.m, and it occurred to me, if I didn't, and other people can do it, but if I didn't, we wouldn't have a voice at the table in Durham County. were senior Democrats, right? And the reason nobody wanted to step up, if you remember in COVID, seniors were the most people that suffered and died.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted to have in-person meetings. They just didn't want to take that risk. But I said, we're going to do this. We need 6 Democrats to form our chapter. And I had 6, and I told my husband, I said, you're one of us. Come on. So he came, and I had my 6 people. We paid our money. It's $5, and the $5 per person will go to the state because we're under the umbrella of the North Carolina Democratic Party. We're a caucus. And so we send our money
Talk about
to
that a minute.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but talk about that a minute, because you mentioned that you're chartered.
We are a caucus.
You're a caucus.
We are approved by the North Carolina Democratic Party as senior Dems. So as a caucus. So
Great.
we had Tom Rothrock came from Charlotte. He was the membership chair, and he came and made everything official and organized. And then we started building our chapter in Durham County. And we became the fastest, largest chapter in North Carolina.
Wow.
I said, wow, that's what God could do. Not Brenda Pollard, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But that's what we did. And I'll tell you how we did it. It's a team. When I started the meetings, people would raise their hand. They said, we need a committee. We need an action and advocacy committee. We need to meet before the meeting. We need to make phone calls. We need to be doing postcards. We need to be knocking on doors. We need voter registration. We're going to work on it. I said, and you're going to chair it because you know the idea you want to, it's your passion. You're the chair. And they took the idea and it just flourished. So once we became the largest in the state, the state leadership called me and said, Brenda, would you consider running to be the president of all the senior Democrats in North Carolina? And I'm thinking, I still have this disease. I'm going to have to go to the clinic for the rest of my life, y'all. That's never going to change. But you know what? I have a team. It's all about the team. It's not about one person. And we have a team that support each other. So if I can't do something, there's somebody that'll step up for us. And that's so important.
You mentioned that you have more than 50 chapters now. Are you starting?
We have, thank you for that. We have over 600 members in North Carolina, and we have 17 chapters. Not every county has a chapter yet, but this Friday, we're going to organize Clinton, North Carolina. We're going to that county, and they're bringing in other counties at that meeting that we're going to have. And hopefully we will organize more than one county this Friday.
Tell me about the chapters. What do they do? I have an impression that some of the chapters do something that other chapters don't do, and it's kind of the decision of the local chapter to do whatever it is that's important.
Each chapter, we are the state, and we oversee the chapters, but we don't tell them what their activities are because each chapter is unique. Sure. They're unique in their area, what is successful for them. I just was on the call today from New Hanover County. I was talking to the president of New Hanover County, and they are trying to get an initiative started about voter protection and so forth. And we're just working hand in glove to work with each chapter and what's important to them.
That's great to hear. And it also helps us to get your word up. You get the word out
Yeah.
because also mentioned um, seniors are not just about senior issues like healthcare. They're also about supporting voting rights and education. So could you talk a little bit about all of that?
That's true. We are really focused on um, educating people about when you need to register, where you go, how you register, because some people haven't done that. We're also involved in watching the
Being
social.
registered to vote.
Yes, register to vote.
Mm-hmm.
We're also watching Social Security
Mm-hmm.
very close and our benefits because some folks want to remove those benefits. They're not entitlements.
Yeah.
We have put our money there, and that's our money.
Yeah.
So we're trying to protect that for seniors. Medicare and Medicaid are issues. We that changes each year. What's important to the seniors, but we're focused, and we hope to with Roy Cooper, and of course we certainly want Anita Earls to step back on the bench as a Supreme Court justice. We're supportive of her
Mm-hmm.
and trying to help Anita Earls
Mm-hmm.
win her seat again. We're engaged, and we vote. The senior Democrats have the largest statistics, and we show up. And the reason is
Yeah.
our future. We want the generation behind us to do better and to have better. That's what we're working for. And we're hoping with the
Mm-hmm.
national spotlight that people will recognize North Carolina as the best senior Democrats in the country. That's my goal. That's my vision. And I'm also working closely with young Democrats in North Carolina. Um, we're going to partner with them. We're going to work with them. They have so much to offer us, and we have so much to offer them. And I want to work with them, and they want to work with us. And I need to
Mm-hmm.
know their issues because, again, they are the future of North Carolina. And we need to mentor them. And they
They
want
are.
that. They want that mentorship. Um, they can lead us, and we'll be proud of that. And I'm also working with the Veterans and Military Affairs. There's so many veterans who are seniors who need our help. And I'm partnering with the Disabilities Caucus, Pam McAfee. She is the
Mm-hmm.
chair of Disabilities Caucus, and she is our second vice of the senior Dems. So she's wearing
Oh,
a
wow.
she's got a couple of things on her. She's working very hard to help us
Yeah.
as seniors, but also help our disabled. So we're just out there across the board doing all we can to help folks.
Fantastic. We're going to take a little bit of a break. So get a glass of water, your throat, and
Okay,
we'll be back in a couple of seconds.
thank
You're
you.
listening to Voices of We the People. Our guest is Brenda Pollard, and we'll return to her discussion in a moment. And in fact, she's a TikTok celebrity, so we're going to ask her about that. What, you might ask, is next for Voices of We the People? Well, I'm telling you, it's going to be exciting. Our next three podcasts, we're going to be presenting three women who are outstanding in different fields. These are women that you should know and that they will be a great resource for you as you travel through your own journey. Tune in next time for part one of the story that we're talking about. And also, we're going to start dealing with voting specifically. So in February, we're going to have Democracy North Carolina on. That would be Marcus Thompson. He's going to talk about voting. We're going to have some interactive things. We're going to have the NAACP as we lead up to a voter forum, what we're calling creating a voting community. And that will be on the 28th of February. So in February, we will be leading up to our education, our voter education. And hopefully, it's going to be in Jacksonville. This is one of the few in-person um, uh, forums that we're going to be doing. So if you're in the Jacksonville area, hopefully you will come. Um, it's going to be interactive. If you don't know if you're registered to vote, we'll help you to learn how you do learn to understand if you're registered to vote. Um, Tune in next week for one of the discussions on the women who are changing lives around them. They're doing amazing things. So I hope you will join us next week as well. I want to get back to our discussion with Brenda, and I really want to find out, how did you get involved with TikTok?
What I was a delegate to the DNC, the National Convention in Chicago last August. And I was interviewed by Spectrum News. Tim Boyan called and wanted me to do an interview before I left for Chicago. I said I'd be glad to. Can I get some water?
Sure. Some of you already know that Brenda is a TikTok celebrity. And she, the person who has been working with her has 4 million viewers. We only strive to get 4 million viewers. And we are looking forward to sharing her TikTok appearances. There are a few of them. So her TikTok appearances. And also, we want to support what she's doing with creating senior centers around the state. So if you hear that a senior citizen is being developed in your community, please go out and support them. They are very active. They're doing some great things, and they need your help. Brenda's back.
Thank you.
So talk about TikTok.
The TikTok platform, I had a phone call because my interview with Spectrum found its way to Los Angeles, California. And an actress there, Lauren, Lauren Howard Hayes, is a producer, a director, an actress, and a comedian. And she has her own platform on TikTok. And she called me and she said, I really liked your interview and I really want to do, pardon me, a TikTok. And I said, that'll be different. I've never done that. And she said, well, we'll do that. What we want to do is to encourage the generation that's 18 to 29 years old, Gen Z generation, to vote for Harris. And that's what they watch. They are on TikTok. So we did it, and we had 4 million viewers from around the world. I became a queen.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah.
I became a baddie. And I said to Lauren, I hope that's good. And she said, it is very good. In fact, the TikTok became pinned. When you're pinned, it's the very at the top of the platform so that everybody can watch it. So
Wow.
it was quite extraordinary because in the campaign days, I would be going to a lot of things with Vice President Harris in North Carolina as her delegate. And when I would show up, people wanted a photo with me. And I said, me? And they said, we've seen you on TikTok. And they're still talking to me. Just recently, I was talking to these 2 young men, and I had encouraged them. They were in college, and I said, I really want you to vote. I can't tell. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. That is your right and your privilege. I hope you'll consider Vice President Harris. And they said, Ms. Pollard, we voted, and we got our friends to vote because we wanted to, because we saw you on TikTok. And I said, thank you for that. So,
Okay, so what that means is Governor Cooper now needs you to be on TikTok.
I think that's what it means. The
I think
actress
that's what it
called.
means too.
I think so. The actress Lauren called me. We talked last week, and because there's a primary, we
Oh,
really
great.
can't endorse and be out there, right, in the primary. But once that's behind us,
Hmm.
we're going to probably do another TikTok.
I
It'll
look
be.
forward to that. I look forward to that.
I'm
That's
excited.
amazing.
And my hair has some light highlights in my hair, and she bought a blonde wig, and she dressed in a scarf, and I had pins and jewelry, and she just duplicated what I had, and we became the Brendas. And she would dress in what I was dressed in. So she would write the script, but I had to read the script. And if I didn't feel comfortable with the script, she changed it. I said, I can't say some of that.
Uh,
TikTok has some things, some language that I couldn't say. I couldn't say that. And she understood. I said, I will have to change some of the words. And she said, we'll change it. And
well, I
so
look forward to see. I look forward to seeing you again. For
thank you.
our governor. I know it's going to be quite an impression.
It will be
Before we
fun.
go, because our time is closing, I want to ask you one little thing.
Yeah.
Right now, in 2026, what gives you the most concern going forward? And what should we be looking forward to do something about it?
Well, in my lifetime, I haven't seen so much. Um, I'm trying to find the words because people people are not talking to each other like they used to do. I
Yes,
think our social media has changed that. If I'm at a restaurant, I'm looking at people that are on their phones. We need to be talking to each other,
absolutely. Hmm.
and that concerns me. I mean, that's a personal reflection. Um, but what I find the hope in is our young generation. I'm talking to them. I know that our party needs more members, and I'm asking them why. Come over, and they said, Mrs. Pollard, we don't really align with a party label. We align with issues. So, in other
Hmm.
words, I like to stay current. I like to talk to people. I love people. I love them. They give me energy. And I just love to talk with people and find out what's on their heart. What's going on? Tell me about you, because it's about them. It's not
Yeah,
about
yeah,
me. And I
yeah.
need to help them if I can. And people come to me and they say, I haven't shared this with anybody, but I thought I could share my health concern with you because of what you've been through. I said, I want to help you with that if I can. And I'll connect you with some people if I can. And that's a very that feels really good to me to do that work. But I think I'm even talking to Republicans that I've known my lifetime, and they've come to me and said, we've changed our party. This is not who
Oh,
we are.
really?
And they're changing. And I don't personally, they know who I am. I walk in a room and people walk out, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay because I feel like they know what I'm going to talk about.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if you don't want to hear the facts, the truth, the where we are, it's where we have to be. We have to help each other now.
Yes,
And
we do.
we've lost some of that. And
Hmm.
especially our young folks. And so I just say they know me from the back of my head, and they go, "That's Brenda." and they still like to talk with me and share their thoughts with me. And I think this is the highest compliment. And I hope that I'm an ambassador for all of us. I want to be. I want to be that voice to help people that don't have that voice. And some people don't want that voice, and that's okay. But we need to do what we can to make America the best it can be.
I have appreciated our discussion, and you're absolutely right. We really do have to reach out to our fellow travelers
Yeah.
in this life. Your journey has been an amazing lesson in getting there and being open to whatever's going on that needs to happen. TikTok being an example, and receiving the
Yeah.
Order of the Longleaf Pine Award is another one. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your journey. Um, and that I hope that our listeners have found courage, have found lessons, have found joy in what you said, what you shared. I know I have, and I am grateful for what you have done, will continue to do, and we look forward to hearing more about the seniors and the centers that you're establishing throughout the state.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to our audience, don't forget you can go to our website, voiceofwethepeople.com, and give us feedback on today's program. You can also suggest future guests and topics. And of course, we welcome sponsors and donors. See our website for more details and further information. And before I go, let me give a shout out to the entire podcast, mention everybody's name because it's a pretty big team. But I do want to highlight and give special thanks to Tamika Robinson of Blue Lady Radio, our podcast manager, and she's our director. And she is an amazing person in her own right. And very shortly, you will hear her story. I also I want to thank our technical advisor, my husband James, who's also our technical director. And I want everybody to remember the Reverend Dr. King believed in the ability to change society through the power of voting. The great irony, he says, of our present moment is that both of these precepts, peaceful change and voting rights, are under assault and threatened in America like
Mhm.
never before in our lifetimes.
Could I interject a personal
You wanted to
caveat?
say something?
I did. If I
Please
really
do.
feel in my heart, people, if they want to join the Democratic Women of North Carolina, I've been involved all my life and was honored with the highest award, Democratic Woman of the Year in 2018. I just had to share that because that's a high honor, and they selected me, and I will never forget that. It means a lot to me, and I did not want to forget to share that with y'all and your audience. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that and bringing that to our attention. It gives us hope for the many bridges your journey has taken you on and the lessons you've shared this today. And
Thank you.
being honored by Democratic women is just very special. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Dr. Gloria Frederick, your host, saying thank you for listening and see you next time for Voices of We the People. Again, this is Gloria Frederick saying thanks you for listening. Go to our website where we have some more information. And see you next time.